We are again at the Biosquare City for Hudson County Review Live. I'm your host, the man that lifts barbell plates, eats T-bone steaks, at a demeanor that's still as sweet as a chocolate cake, John R. Highness. I'm joined with Council President Jen Giattino, also, of course, running for mayor. Jen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So
Before we start, do you need a sticker?
I'm good right now.
Sure?
I appreciate it.
Maybe by the end you'll be wearing
Maybe by
that.
the end. Let's see what the answers go. So, all right, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we could probably do 3 hours of this if we really had the time, but let me start here. Let's go back to June 20th. Mayor Zimmer announces she's not going to be running again, and she endorses Ravi Bala's candidacy. Before that happened, how long before that did you know that this was going to happen, is what I meant to say?
Before she made the announcement on Tuesday,
yeah.
She called me the day before and asked if she could speak to me, and came to my house and told me the day before.
So you must have been surprised.
I was shocked.
So when she told you she was going to be supporting Ravi's candidacy for mayor, what was your reaction?
The part about that surprised me is, in general, we've had consensus and we've worked to come to a consensus, and I just didn't feel that the other council members on her team were part of that, including myself.
And that, would you say that was the big catalyst to getting started with your campaign?
No.
Okay, what was?
Making sure that Hoboken has the right mayor, and I think Ravi, Councilman Bala, we're friends. He's an excellent legislator. I just think Hoboken deserves a mayor who wants to be mayor for Hoboken and do what's right for Hoboken, and Hoboken is their main priority.
So what does that mean? You're thinking he's going to run for higher office down the line if elected mayor?
I think if you asked him, he would say he would.
Okay, very good. So now, obviously, it was about the end of July you kicked off, and you guys have been moving, kind of approaching this from a grassroots perspective. So just tell me some of the feedback you're getting in the community and why you think, it was good that you stayed the course and decided to throw your hat in the ring here.
I think there's a really big difference between being a ward council person and an at-large council person. So I've had the pleasure of being a ward council person for the last 6 years, which means constituents are constantly calling you and you understand their needs. And door knocking, I do love door knocking, one of my favorite things, and I have knocked outside my ward for other people, but doing it for yourself is this whole new experience, and seeing different issues in different parts of the city. A lot of them completely overlap when it comes to small scale things, but development in particular in the western part of the city is a big issue. People feel like they're losing Hoboken's losing its identity with all the development that's going on in their neighborhoods. And just hearing different things from different people in different areas has been really eye-opening and actually refreshing in a way. Knocking in senior buildings, the 6th Ward doesn't have a senior building in it. There are some buildings that maybe some of the population are seniors, but the 6th Ward actually doesn't have very many large buildings. I love knocking in senior buildings and hearing their issues and hearing how things haven't been addressed in the past and how possibly in the future they could be done better.
So it seems like you really enjoy door knocking, its constituent services, and a lot of your supporters have said that to me, and I know you've said that, but what do you think, what is it about that you enjoy?
I love fixing problems. It's one of my favorite things to do, so if someone comes to me with an issue, I love trying to take the issue from it is an issue to it's solved, and rolling up my sleeves and following it through.
Okay. Now, some people that do not support your candidacy have said that you're running a spoiler campaign, and this is more out of a revenge plot against Councilman Bala. So, I mean, what do you say to that?
I've always been a consensus builder, I don't know why anyone would say revenge plot. It's not the kind of person I am. I just think it's really important that Hoboken has the right mayor.
All right, and another criticism that you faced, of course, out of the top tier candidates, you're the only Republican candidate. So some people said, a Republican is just not going to be good for Hoboken at this time. But obviously it's a nonpartisan race, which is important for people to know. But why do you think this criticism is a fair one or not?
I don't think it's fair or unfair, and I understand how people feel with about our current president. I am not our current president. I'm Jen Giattino, the 6th Ward council person.
Thanks for clarifying.
and current council president. And my constituents, and I believe this about most of the people that I meet, when they meet me, it's very easy to identify what kind of person I am, and that I am a hard worker, and I do look out for people. And I think when someone meets me, that fear that they potentially have goes away.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, that I could see that. So now, you told me previously, which I appreciated, that you didn't actually vote for Donald Trump. So I want to ask you, did you vote for Hillary Clinton, not vote at all, write-in vote, anything further?
The third person.
The third person, okay. Jill Stein?
No. Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Starts with a G. You think about it. His first name starts with a G.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, all right, fair enough then. So with that out of the way, let's get down to the nitty-gritty stuff here, which right now is the Suez water deal.
I did think about writing in my husband.
I'm sure evidently qualified.
Yes.
But now, as far as the Suez water deal goes, let's talk about that. Obviously, a lot of eyeballs have been on that, and this is a deal that's been a part of Hoboken government since 1994, if I'm not mistaken. And just recently, the mayor has started to come out publicly and say that she believes this proposed deal is the best thing for Hoboken. And obviously the council hasn't agreed, there hasn't been a vote. And about 2 weeks ago, there was a big fight at the meeting between you folks, the council versus the mayor, I mean. So just with all that in mind, why, in your opinion, did you think this deal is not ready for a vote?
I actually don't think there was a fight. And the reason we didn't vote on it, to be perfectly clear at the last council meeting, was nobody sponsored it. I asked if if there were any sponsors, and no one sitting on the dais said they would sponsor it. So you cannot vote on something without having sponsors.
Sure.
But in 2001, a bad renegotiation happened, and I don't want the same thing to happen again. We've asked multiple questions. Some of them have been answered, but many of them haven't been. And I don't want to go into another bad deal and have to live through another bad deal through 24. If I had asked to have a closed session on the meeting with the mayor there, Steve Wilcox, and Dennis Enright. Steve Wilcox is the auditor, and Dennis Enright primarily negotiated the deal. Mm-hmm. And I thought it would be really beneficial if we had a closed session prior to the council meeting and we could get the information we needed, and then maybe a vote could have been held. Maybe this is the best deal we could have considering the liability we have. Maybe that is the case, but that opportunity and that information was never given to us.
So the mayor told me that the reason that she did not have the consultant in the closed session is because she wanted this all to come out in a public session where, anybody could watch and hear and listen, learn, whatever you want to say. So that was one thing. And the other thing was she believes that the council knew about this and the general public's known about this for at least 2 months. So, why do you think the council waited until September to dig into this? I know it was on the August agenda, but just give me the timeline from your perspective, first of all.
For me, knowing that we had an unfunded liability happened in August. And that was the first time I learned about it. And I believe we were in a finance committee meeting. It was Councilwoman Fisher, Councilman Cunningham, and myself. And Director Marks said something which wasn't exactly that, and that was the first time that it came to light with all of us. We asked questions about it there, and we're not able to get direct answers. I asked if the city auditor, Steve Wilcox, knew about it. They said yes. We asked if we could speak with him. Unfortunately, he was away on vacation. And then the day before the council meeting, we had a second meeting to hopefully get some of these answers. And we didn't hear back from Steve Wilcox at that point. And I requested that we hear sometime early on Wednesday before the council meeting, just so we could have the information and be ready to vote on the Suez contract that evening. But unfortunately, Steve Wilcox did not get us the information until 7.
Gotcha. Now,
and his information, I don't know, I think the letter was made public, was very, very brief.
Understand. Now, the mayor has accused pretty much the entire council playing politics on this thing, and this is all election season jockeying, basically, saying that the deal that she's proposing is unequivocally a better deal than what is there now. So I'm going to assume you don't agree with that, but go ahead and tell me your reaction.
It may be a better deal than what's there now, but we're not able to have that conversation. Sorry. We're not able to have that conversation. Unfortunately, if we could have had our answers answered, then maybe we could have gotten to that point.
So now, as far as the liability goes, it's about $8.35 billion. I think we've established that. Now, the mayor has said that the new deal comes with a $10 million forgiveness. So, I mean, as far as you and other members of the council will told, does that mean it would erase the current liability, or are these two different things?
Well, is the forgiveness then just passed along to the ratepayer? I know I'm asking you like you know the answer. I thought maybe she told you that.
I don't know off the top of my head.
If you owe someone $8.3 million or $10 million or $5 million, it's not just forgiven. It's paid some other way. So if it's paid by the ratepayer or paid by the taxpayer, to me, it's still getting paid.
Okay. And then the other thing, too, I mean, this is a very complex issue, needless to tell you, but as far as ratepayer and taxpayer go, could you just explain the differentiation as you understood it, as far as these agreements go with Suez?
Yeah, so currently the bulk water rate, the excess bulk water rate gets paid by the taxpayer. Moving forward with the new contract, it would get paid by the ratepayer, which actually makes perfect sense to me that the ratepayer would be paying it as opposed to the taxpayer, because if you're a family of one and I'm a family of five, you shouldn't be paying the same amount for the excess bulk water rate, right? Mm-hmm. So that makes sense to me, but for the past 4 years, this has been accruing, right? So we're up to $8.3 million, and now maybe I don't live here anymore, and you just moved here, and now you're essentially paying for that. So yes, moving forward, it makes perfect sense, but billing from the past doesn't.
All right. So I don't want to get too bogged out of the numbers, but moving on, you and Councilman DeFusco both called for an investigation into this, something that the administration believes is not necessary, but nevertheless, you have called it, and I mean, why do you think that's the next course of action here?
I think it's important that someone that's not an insider is looking at the information, and nothing would make me happier than coming back and saying nothing was done wrong. I don't want bad things for the city of Hoboken. I don't want us to have a liability. I think we're all looking out for the best. I know we're all looking out for the best interests of Hoboken. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone, including the mayor, myself, everyone. Okay.
Now, Councilman DeFusco made an accusation that you were part of the problem because you were on the infrastructure committee. I know you responded, in a press release, but, not everybody reads these things. So just, if you could just reiterate your stance on that.
Well, for starters, I am not on the infrastructure subcommittee. It was an ad hoc committee that I believe I created in January, where Councilman Bala was the chair, and it was Councilman Russo and Councilman Fisher. And I'm just going to go off topic for 1 second. As council president, I have done a really good job at making sure that each committee isn't solely, quote unquote, Zimmer council people. And in the past, it had always been that way. Whoever the mayor was, it seemed like all the committees were kind of given to and led by whoever the mayor's supporters are on the council. Mm-hmm. And I've made it a priority, again with consensus building, not to do that. And this year, even Councilman Russo, I made chair of parking and transportation. Okay, now your question again?
All right, so the question was, as far as Councilman DeFusco's accusation that you were part of the problem with Suez.
Oh, okay, now I remember.
Yeah.
He had mentioned that, I think he had also said that I should have known what that Councilman Bala had a conflict. Mm-hmm. It is not the council president's responsibility to investigate each council person before placing them on a committee to see if they have conflicts. If someone has a conflict, it's actually their responsibility to acknowledge it and explore if they really have a conflict. if I had known the information, I would have looked into it, but since I didn't, it would be impossible to. I did not know it before anyone else on the committee, which was actually even, I think, just like a day before. Oh no, it was like 5 days before the rest of the city council, which as soon as I realized it, had asked for another subcommittee meeting and asked for a closed session so the entire council could have been briefed on it.
Fair enough. So not really a question, but just an observation. When I was going through some old footage, I was looking at the October 2015 fundraiser when it was you, Councilman DeFusco, Dana Weaver, the mayor. That seems like a really long time ago, huh? When everyone was a big,
Yes,
happy family.
It does.
But, I mean, just
But I think we're all still happy.
not a family, though.
Cousins.
Maybe distant cousins. All right, so with that, now, obviously, there's 6 people in this race. 4, I guess you could call them top-tier candidates. But however you want to look at it, I mean, why do you think you're the most qualified to be running the city?
I've said a couple, about gaining consensus, constituent services. I'm a roll up my sleeves kind of person and get involved and get things done. When you think about the Bijou pilot, 7th and Jackson, that was brought before us, and I was not on that subcommittee. I was council president at the time, but that subcommittee, too into the weeds, has 4 people on it, so
Yeah.
council president can't attend those. So when we were given all the information, we went through it. Off the bat, the numbers weren't making sense. The developer was giving us back a lot less than they should have. I believe we could have gotten a lot more out of them. I'm very happy that we have a basketball court coming, but should it be one basketball court? Probably not. And a park. We could have gotten a lot more out of them. And also in there was all the affordable housing. It wasn't just Hoboken residents didn't get priority, and I really worked hard to make sure that in the end Hoboken residents do get priority there.
All right.
So when something is given to me, it's not that I just sit back and rubber stamp it. I sit there and I go through things and I work hard and I do get consensus. And I think something that's really important as a mayor is getting consensus with the residents. If you go and you talk to people and you explain why you're doing what you're doing, just like when someone comes to me and I'm not aware of something and they explain to me, what the reason for doing it is, it's so much easier to get behind that person and support them. Hoboken deserves a CEO, and I will go in there and I will be a strong leader.
Now, while we're on the topic of policy and initiatives, other candidates have talked about bringing in a pool in either a new school or some kind of school annex. I mean, where do you stand on those 2 things, just out of curiosity?
I think they're all great, but, holding up a shiny rendering and saying, you will have a pool, you will have an ice skating rink, you will have a brand new multi-service center is all fabulous, but how are they getting paid for? So, like I said before with 7th and Jackson, I believe we could have gotten a lot more out of the developer. When we're negotiating with developers, we need to be getting everything we can from them, and I think that's the way to do it.
All right. So the only another thing I wanted to talk about is, as you probably heard, as we speak now, there is a court hearing for Freeholder Romano that is going to determine whether or not he could be on the ballot twice. Of course,
I heard that on the way here.
Yeah, it's I guess you could call it breaking news. But whether he could run for Freeholder and Mayor simultaneously, what's your take on this whole situation, regardless of the outcome here?
I don't believe that people should run for 2 offices at the same time, but it's his decision. If it's legal and he can do it, it's his choice.
All right, simple. So, with all the chaos going on, with the election season heating up, obviously we're in prime time. Is there anything that's thrown you off at this point, or is it pretty much what you've expected? It's just typical Hoboken as far as you're concerned.
Nothing's thrown me off. I would say a regular, just like any other election.
Okay.
They all have their ups and downs, but you just got to see it through to the end.
And you previously made a comment that I know I'm going to win and I could envision the victory and other quotes like that. Why do you believe that that's the case here?
Because Like I said, I love to roll up my sleeves and get things done and finish things through. I'm very confident. I have a lot of great people supporting me. I'm so happy that both Councilman Cunningham and Councilwoman Fisher are supportive of me, not to mention Dana Wafer, but I have a lot of who I believe to be prominent people in Hoboken that are behind me and working really hard for me.
All right, Council President, it's been a pleasure. We really appreciated the time. That was great, and thank you everyone
Are you ready for a
joining.
sticker?
You can put on the sticker, but just as people always tell me, this is not an endorsement. So, with that, I will take the
Wait.
sticker. All right, you guys got to
I'll put it on for you.
Thank you. Very cordial, very courteous, Jen Giattino. So thank you everyone for joining us again. We appreciate your time as always. Next week you could hear from First Ward Councilman Mike DeFusco and his candidacy. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic weekend.